All right, we are live here with Sports Talk Jay. Jay, thank you for joining me today, man. How's it going?
Oh, it's just going fine.
Good, good. Well, I appreciate all that you do. You do a really good job over on YouTube. So we brought you on to talk a little bit about this NCAA mess that they've created for themselves that Tennessee's right in the middle of. Tennessee certainly seemed to go on the offensive pretty quickly here. I've heard some rumors that Tennessee was prepping for this, like knew it was coming, like knew that they were just waiting on the NCAA to pull a punch so that they could come back with the hammer. Is that kind of your vibe feeling? Is that what you've heard as well?
Yeah, definitely. Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel actually he went back into the public records. They've been working on this for about a year, and that's Attorney General Scametti has been working on this along with Donde Plowman, who is the chancellor at UT. They've been grinding on this along with Danny White for about 12 months. They were just waiting for them to pull the trigger, and as soon as they did, they were going to slam them with a lawsuit, which you saw what happened. As soon as Pat Forday and Dennis Dodd and the NCAA's minions went out and with their leaks and said, okay, this is coming and it's a major and all that kind of stuff. And of course, they'd already had investigators there. They were like, okay, boom. That next day they had a lawsuit. And lawsuits don't take one day to get ready.
Sure.
So yeah, they were just waiting on them because they were not going to go through that a second time.
We've seen the slow wheels of justice, or whatever you'd call them, grind with the FSU and the ACC stuff that's going on, and how that can be probably a pretty long, drawn out thing unless both sides settle. What's the timeline look like for Tennessee, Virginia lawsuits against the NCAA?
Well, obviously they got the preliminary restraining order, so the NCAA can do nothing to anybody, including FSU. Might ought to reopen what happened to them. They got a total, that was such a crap job that got done to them. 2-year show cause to the offensive coordinator for giving a guy a ride. That was the most absurd thing. And I think FSU was just so tied up dealing with the ACC and that lawsuit. They were like, we just can't be dealing. We can't fight two battles on two fronts. But I would say it's going to be several months before Judge Corker, who is the judge up in Greenville, Tennessee, which is my hometown, he's in the Eastern Division of the federal court. He's going to take probably, I would think, 3, 6, 9 months for this to get worked out. But he's already said that NCAA is going to lose. He told them day one, he said, you are going to lose this.
You'd think by the injunction too, like it very much like spoke to like, hey, yeah, we're not going to reverse this. And what makes me wonder is like, I wonder how like, just like, no other way to say it, but just balls to the wall teams are being right now with really no rules on NIL in place, like nothing that the NCAA can really enforce right now.
No, and they really couldn't to begin with ever since the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against them.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't do anything for about a year or two. They were on their heels because they just didn't know what to do. So then they brought in Charlie Baker, the new president, and he thought, well, I'm the new sheriff in town. I'll come in here and, I was a governor of Connecticut or wherever the crap he was. And he seems like a decent enough guy, but I don't think he understood, you might not want to mess with certain teams that are already – look, we were in the double jeopardy situation. That we were the worst team to go after because we had to pull the nuke because we couldn't go for the double offender situation to where they could have really done something to us. So we had no choice. We were going to – if they came after us – it was a war right then and there. So
teams that have open investigations, we know about Florida. We have speculation that Miami has an open investigation because they would be involved with that Rashada stuff too. Like you said, Florida State maybe settled early, but also maybe bigger fish to fry, from their standpoint with the ACC. Teams with open investigations, they may get out of this scot-free. Like, even if they have hard and fast evidence, I've heard there are like text messages with the Rashada stuff. I don't think there will be any, I don't think they'll serve any penalties for that unless they agree to like, yes, put some penalties on us that you don't have to. I can't imagine Florida serving one penalty for this.
They would be idiots to do so.
Right.
And even though, yeah, technically they had a contract with Rashada, which would have been the smoking gun. the smoking gun doesn't exist anymore. It went poof when that federal judge gave the injunction. That whole evidence just went away because it didn't matter anymore. So if I'm Florida, I don't settle on anything. I don't take one. I don't lose one scholarship whatsoever. And I would just say, look, man, this is what we live in. Their only situation is probably uh, the liable situation with Rashada, suing the collective or whatever, which they may have already settled by now.
Yeah, you take that civilly and you work on that your
Mm-hmm.
own. Like I wouldn't, again, I wouldn't lose one scouting day. I wouldn't lose one official visit. I wouldn't lose one scholarship for sure. No show cause if I'm UF, because why would you? Like agreeing to anything right now with like essentially a dead entity is I don't know. It just wouldn't make a lot of sense to me. When the SEC came out and the Big Ten, and I think it was Sankey specifically that said it, like, hey, we're forming this group, we're forming this advisory board, but it's not to preempt the NCAA. Do you buy that at all? Do you feel like they're eventually going to be the new NCAA?
I think they're going to branch off in some way, shape, or form, and pretty much Sankey, and just knowing how he thinks, I've watched him for several years now. They know they're the big dogs, and they know the NCAA's kind of their strength and power is waning. Ever since the Supreme Court stepped in, they've been on the way down. And Sankey realizes, we're going to have some sort of structure and some sort of governing body. And I think it's going to be the Big Ten and the SEC combined into some sort of super governing body that controls 60 teams or something along those lines. If I had to guess, I would assume the FSU situation will move into that over the next 12 to 24 months, because that's not a situation that can be rectified. The whole deal with FSU and ACC, that they're going to be in the SEC or the Big Ten at some point.
If you had to guess, I know that this isn't necessarily right on brand with the Tennessee NCAA stuff, but just future of the NCAA, future of the SEC Big Ten, where do you see FSU landed?
SEC would be my preference. I would rather have them in there. I really don't, and I don't think Greg Sankey wants the Big Ten down in Florida. I don't think he wants them moving any further south than they are. I think there's going to be a huge battle over North Carolina and Virginia. That's going to be a battle because those are separate states that, don't necessarily have a lot of representation in either place. So I think there's going to be a huge battle over that. I would say FSU, Miami, Clemson should come into the SEC, and that's what Sankey's going to want. Now, that's going to tick off Florida Gators like crazy. They're going to lose their minds because they do not want Miami and FSU in the SEC. They do not want that. But I don't think they can stop it.
Yeah, I don't know if they could stop it even if they were relevant, but do you think and this is not to pull a bunch of shots their way, but I feel like Florida fans feel like Florida has this power that could theoretically keep Florida State or keep Miami out. I mean, even if they were good, I don't know if they would have that power over ESPN, but certainly with their last 10-year stretch, they don't have that power, right?
No, and nobody cares other than Florida about. I wouldn't want Florida State out. I think Florida State would be a fine addition to the SEC, and it would bother me if they went to the Big Ten. It makes no sense. Why would you go to a group that's really set up in the Northeast? And I know they've added some teams out west, but it makes no sense for the Southern teams to go anywhere but the Southeastern Conference, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the Big Ten being like the national conference, if they end up taking from all four corners, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but it just geographically, Florida State has always felt like an SEC school that just happened to be in the ACC. Jay, where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Tell me a little bit about your channel, your show, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Okay. Sports Talk Jay on YouTube is pretty much it. I don't have a big social media footprint or anything like that. I just do YouTube because I enjoy it and I have fun with it. And I've been following college sports for about 4 decades, which tells you my age. And I played at UT. I was the captain of the UT golf team in the 1980s, we had wooden clubs and niblets and all that kind of stuff, but that was way back then. So I'm a VFL and I bleed orange, but I love college football and I really enjoy watching the other teams play. And with the exception of Florida, which really, I'm still upset about them costing us 1 or 2 natties, which is one of the reasons they're kind of my nemesis. The other teams, I just enjoy watching them, and just a college football fan, really.
No, I think you do a great job with it, and I really do enjoy your content. So, Man, I appreciate you for hanging out tonight. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And I'm excited to get you back on. Anything we can do to help, let us know. But I appreciate you, man.